99% of hiring failures are due to a lack of culture fit and not skills. So you have to identify this in the beginning stages when you are doing your interview.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Out of Office podcast. And I'm joined today by the lovely Terry, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the secret to finding the perfect team player. Morning, Terry.
Hey. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to dive into this because I really do think that it's a crucial part of, whether you're the client or whether you're recruiting for the client. So excited.
Yeah. So I'm just going to give away all my secrets like from the start. Yeah. Hire for culture fit. And why do I say that? Why does culture fit matter? Yeah. So I think, the number one reason for hiring for culture fit, it plays a significant role in employee retention. Now, I know that, obviously a lot of companies struggle with this, but when employees feel connected to the company culture, they are more likely to stay with that organization long term. So a strong cultural fit fosters a sense of belonging. It fosters alignment with the company goals, reducing the turnover, and of course the costs associated with recruitment and training, which we all know can be quite high. So other reasons for why culture fit matters: enhanced employee satisfaction, you're improving your team dynamics. A strong cultural fit reduces the risk of conflict, misunderstandings. Everyone is operating from a sort of a shared of understanding of how to work together and what is expected from them, which leads to increased productivity, right? So employees who are fitting well within a company culture are more likely to be productive. Fact. Yeah. And again, those who are going to believe and embody the employee culture, or the company culture, should I say, become natural brand ambassadors. So these are the ones that are going to be more likely to speak positively about the company. They are going to, both internally and externally, and that, which is going to just enhance your company's reputation, and then attracting that like-minded talent to join the company. So Terry, in your experience, what does hiring for culture fit really mean? And why do you think, especially in this day and age, it's even more critical than ever in remote work specifically?
Definitely. Well, let's first dive into what culture fit means. Culture fit means aligning with companies' values, communication styles, and team dynamics. It's about ensuring that your personal values resonate with the company's mission, adapting to how the team communicates, and blending smoothly with the work environment. When culture fit is strong, it fosters collaboration, growth, and a sense of belonging. And I think that's really important. Everybody is human at the end of the
Everyone wants to
day.
belong. Everyone wants to just belong
Exactly.
somewhere.
Everybody wants to belong, even though it is a professional, setting and so on. You want to be part of a family, essentially. And I think that when you feel that sense of belonging, you really do grow. So, leading to long-term success and fulfillment. Now, when it comes to remote work specifically, this is really crucial to get the culture fit correct. You still need to align with the company's values, and it's more critical to align with the company's like communication styles, because when you are working remotely, that's exactly what it is. You've got to be able to communicate effectively. So making sure that you understand what the company's communication styles are, team dynamics while you're working from a distance is so important.
It's
And
lonely. I mean, you're sat there on your own, and you want to feel like you're still part of something.
Definitely, definitely. And this is also where culture fit comes in because, we'll dive into this a little bit later on how to actually, recruit for a culture fit. But it's making sure that the company's communication styles match the VA's communication styles. You
Yes.
need to find somebody, if you're working with an agent that is extremely busy, that's, not capable of speaking to you every single hour of the day. You've got to have someone that's strong, that's got the exact same culture fit, that's able to run on their own with minimal communication. And that's why culture fit is so important to make a good match.
All right, so give me an example.
So a few years ago, I worked with a company that was hiring for remote positions, like I am now. And we were looking for someone with the right skills, but equally important as their skills, was the culture fit. The company valued open communication, trust, and collaboration, and we made sure to emphasize these qualities during the interview process.
Yeah.
One candidate that actually really stood out is not just because of her technical expertise, but also because of her personal values that aligned perfectly with the company's culture. She shared how she thrived in a remote environment where transparency and regular check-ins were key, and she emphasized her passion for teamwork despite being miles apart. After hiring her, it was clear that the alignment was spot on. She quickly became the go-to team member, facilitating great collaboration and maintaining a positive, productive atmosphere even during challenging projects. Her communication style and values reinforced the company's culture, and she became an essential part of the team. Her success was a direct result of her cultural fit. Both her and the company's values were in sync, and that's what made it successful. And then, like a takeaway as well is hiring for skills is essential, but ensuring that candidates align with company culture is the difference between short-term success and long-term impact.
100%. It's such a great point, Terry. But here's the thing, yeah? So how do you actually figure out if someone fits into your culture during the hiring process? And especially if they're remote.
Well, the answer to that is to use culture focused questions. I think a lot
Yeah.
of the times we're so focused on, can they do the role? What are their skills? Which is equally important. But we also need to identify their culture and make sure that it is a culture fit. So culture fit questions are key. And, a few examples of that is, tell me about the time when you had to adapt to teamwork style, or
Like that one.
how do you typically prefer to communicate with colleagues, especially in a remote setting? Some people love Zoom meetings and some people hate Zoom meetings and they like to communicate on WhatsApp. And so that's a really important question because with remote work, you are on Zoom a lot. So identifying that with your candidates is really important. And then another example is, can you describe a time when you had to adapt to companies' values or working style, and how did you handle it? Because I think that's key. How do you handle difficult times, especially in high-paced, fast-paced positions? And then, like what type of work environment helps you be the most productive and engaged? Now, I love this question, especially when you are hiring for remote positions, because remote work is amazing, but it is an adaptation. It is very
Yeah.
different to going into the office and seeing everybody face to
Actually,
face.
actually requires more discipline than being in an
Exactly.
office. But equally, I find myself more productive than being in an office.
Definitely.
But I mean,
Definitely.
everyone is different. So yeah, I mean, it's a good question to ask.
Exactly. And then you'll quickly know if somebody is fit for a remote position or not just by answering, asking that question.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to culture fit specific questions. And then, another example that I can give here is how do you approach collaboration in a remote team? Can you share a past experience that you've previously dealt with where you have had to do that in a remote setting. And that will also give you a good idea of how are they going to communicate with their clients, how are they going to deal with projects and tasks going forward. So yeah, it just goes down to really just doing culture fit questions. A nice stat that I want to include here as well is 89% of hiring failures are due to a lack of culture fit and not skills. So
Yeah.
you have to identify this in the beginning stages when you are doing your interview.
Yeah. Look, I think a lot of companies have sort of adapted to this slowly but surely because they realize that skills can be taught. If you've got the right attitude and the right, uh, values, as you say, that align with the company, I mean, your systems and your processes and things can be taught. So yeah, I agree. It's important to look at the red flags, to avoid costly hiring mistakes. So, these are crucial indicators that a candidate may not perform well or align with your team. So, by proactively identifying these red flags, like from the start, you can, avoid the poor performance. You can reduce the turnover rates. You can protect the team morale. Super, super important. Again, leading back to what I was saying earlier about productivity, maintaining that culture, improving the collaboration, decision making, and the overall quality of your hire. So when you're interviewing, these red flags, things to look for, yeah. Negative
Mm,
talk about past employers. I mean, if they're talking
big red
about,
flag.
yeah, if they're talking about badly about their past employers already, like how are they going to be talking about you?
Mm,
Lack of enthusiasm. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I've been interviewing and that person has just sat there and they're like monotone and tell me
it's
about
so
yourself,
difficult.
and it's like drawing blood from a stone. Yeah, it becomes impossible, and you almost lose interest as well. So, or another one is defensiveness, or blaming, shifting blame, which just tells me they're not going to be accountable, they're not going to take ownership, they're not going to be responsible in their role.
Yeah.
Rudeness. I mean, I have a rule with rudeness. I don't tolerate it. It's always been a rule of mine. Rudeness or any form of disrespect. Sorry.
Yeah.
Overconfidence, arrogance. Look, I mean, if they're really good at what they do, great. But there's a line. There's a
There's a
line.
difference between confident and arrogant.
Yes. And then
Yes.
unprepared for the interview. I know one of the things that I love best about your interviews when you're starting an interview and he's like, what do you know about the company? Because that shows that
Yes.
they've actually done their homework and they are interested in joining you. And why do they want
Definitely.
to join you?
And definitely, that's another thing with culture fit as well. Culture fit, a lot of people think I've got to fit in with the company's culture. And, I've got what
Yes.
is a company's culture, which is important, yes. But you've also got your own culture. And that's what we really try and identify and what's really important.
Yeah, and I mean, when they start talking around the points and being sort of inconsistent and vague with their answers, and you're like, did you actually, you haven't actually answered the question, you know?
Yes.
That's when you know there's either lying involved or there's a reason why they don't want to answer that, which is, again, just red flag. And then inappropriate attire, right? So that's always the worst for me. Like, make sure you're properly set up in a well-lit space, your camera's on. Most importantly, we can see you, you're dressed well. First impressions count. They do.
Mm,
And the list goes on. I mean, I could go forever, but red flags, red flags. You need to look out for them, and practical tips on how you can sort of go about this. Conduct trial projects. We send our virtual assistants test tasks. You can use these tests to also identify certain behaviors and skills. And then situational role plays, so you can see how they're going to handle sort of real world scenarios, within your business. So that would be, sort of my red flags and tips there. How do you
Yeah.
think, or what do you think the role of leadership is in culture fit?
So this is, I mean, it's equally as important, if not more important. The leaders set the tone for the company culture. So clarity and values and expectations are crucial.
Yeah.
Consistent communication about the company, what the company stands for, and it also helps the candidates self-assess their fit before they even apply. So
Yeah.
being really clear about that, I do believe, is really up to leadership. Um,
Transparency. Yeah.
Definitely. Leadership plays a critical role in shaping and maintaining a company's culture. The values and expectations set by leaders directly influence the work environment and how employees engage with one another. If I think about bad leadership, you can have the most skilled, confident, great people in your organization, and if you are a bad leader, it changes the whole environment,
Yeah.
and it affects on how your team communicates with one another. So
Because it's
again, I mean, it goes
always
to
gonna,
leadership.
yeah, always gonna come down from the top, yeah. I mean,
Definitely.
I think you said it. They're the ones that shaping it. So
Mm,
they're looking to you to lead the culture.
yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that's where clear and consistent communication about these values help candidates assess if they are a good fit for the long run before they even apply, like I did mention. But for example, at a previous company I worked with, the leadership team was clear from the start about the importance of collaboration and innovation. They communicated these values not only in the interview process, but in everyday, interaction, so that there was no blurred lines. It was clear and everyone
Mm.
knew what the expectations were. And as a result, we attracted candidates who naturally thrived in these types of environments, those who were motivated by teamwork and had proactive, creative mindsets. This clarity allowed us to hire people who were a perfect culture fit and contributed to the organization's long-term success. So again, it works hand in hand with one another. And if you've got a really good culture fit and there's clear expectations from leadership, it really is a great match.
I think you nailed it there when you said about communication, yeah. Communication and transparent communication is super
Mm,
important because it all leads back to trust, right? Which is in turn going to lead back to loyalty. And what I was saying in the beginning is going to then lead to employee retention. So these things all have to be, I mean, you can't expect your team to behave or a culture to behave in a certain way if you don't communicate what that is. And
exactly.
it, as you said, clarity is key in here. And that is when you're going to see. I mean, we've spent a lot of time, building the culture within our remote team. And it's great to see it when it happens, when everyone's collaborating and everyone's supporting each other, and it just builds an environment. Because I don't know if for you, but for me certainly, sometimes you get so bogged down in your day and there's like a list as long as your arm and you're needing to get through everything, and just to know that your team is there and supporting
Yes.
you and you can talk to them at any time, it makes the world of difference for me.
Yes, exactly the same for me. And, especially in a remote setting, you need that. But that
Always.
all stems from leadership. And that's exactly what
Understand.
stem into the rest of the team, is that company culture. And I do believe that it is fostered and it does work that well because you do that as a leader. So definitely crucial part of, company culture and making sure that it almost vines into the rest of the team. It definitely comes from leadership and clear communication. The best hires come from leadership that communicates the company's culture clearly and consistently. So, yeah.
Okay, so to recap, why culture fit is essential for long-term success in remote hiring. Yeah. Culture fits, it's a critical component in any successful hiring. I think by prioritizing this and aligning it, in your recruitment process, you're gonna, as we said in the beginning, improve your employee retention, your satisfaction, your productivity, but also you're going to be strengthening your company's brand. And as companies are sort of continuing to evolve, they need to still show, even us as an example, we've grown exponentially over the last 3 years, but you still need to ensure that the new hires share the same values, the same beliefs, as the rest of the company, and maintaining that positive and that thriving workplace. So I think, something to remember is that hiring for culture fit is not just about finding someone who can do the job. Yeah, we've said it earlier as well. It's about finding someone who's going to be a valuable and lasting part of your team. And I would encourage everyone listening today to, sort of audit their current hiring processes and see where culture fit can play a larger role. I said it as well. Skills can be taught, but values and alignments are what build lasting teams. And finding that perfect team player isn't about, ticking all the boxes. It's about finding someone who helps your company grow together.
So nicely said. I can't agree with that anymore. At the end of the day, we're dealing with humans, like I said in the beginning.
Yes.
So yeah, anyone that's made to feel valued and that shares the same values and of you and your company is going to succeed. So thanks for tuning in, and please, we encourage the listeners to please share some tips on what your tricks of the trade is to, hiring for a great culture fit. So like and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening today, and we will see you next time.